All right, today's video, we're going to be ranking all the game systems and let's get into it. All right, before we get into actually ranking them using Tier Maker, just caveats here are S tier. I'm making only like the top tier games. I'm not going to make an SS tier or anything like that that other people have done, as well as I have a no idea category, which I just, for consoles I've never actually experienced. I may have heard like a few things about them. I just want to make sure that I'm not putting them in the list unless I absolutely know where they should go. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and switch on over to the list and let's get into it. All right, here's the list, and it looks like we're starting with the Sega Genesis. So I've got quite a bit of experience with this guy. It's one of the first consoles I actually started using when I was younger. It's not the oldest one I remember. I remember the NES, but I remember this one fondly as like the 8-bit era is the one I actually used the most. We only really had one or two other games in the 8-bit era that weren't Sega Genesis, so I'm going to say that it's probably S tier for me. I think that that's up there. I'm going to probably wind up having a lot in the S tier. I enjoy games a lot, so this is going to be a little bit of a top heavy list here. So this is the Turbo Graphics, I believe, and I've never used one. I've heard things and seen a little bit of to get a kind of a opinion around it, but I don't know exactly where it would land this list, especially with nostalgia and everything. So I'm just gonna leave it on the no idea category. Let me know down in the comments of any of the no idea ones where you think it should be, as well as your experience with the console, and I'd love to know it. And maybe some game recommendations, since I do have the Pocket that I can play this specific console on. So let's go ahead and go into the Super Famicom, and that's S tier, as well as the SNES or Super Nintendo Entertainment System. That's got to be top tier. I didn't play a lot on it, but as going back through and buying a bunch of games for NES or SNES, I've quite a bit enjoyed my time with it. So that's definitely S tier material. I think that that's going to be a lot of what the SNES or the S category is just the ones I enjoy the most. And I'm not going to try to nitpick which one is better than the others because I think they're all great in their own respects. So let's go ahead and go into, I think this is the 3DO. No, this is the 3DO over here. I don't know what this is. Let me know down in the comments any of these. I would love to know what they are, as well as what games you recommend for them. I don't know what this one is. It looks like a leapfrog system, but I assume that's not what it is. So again, let me know down in the comments what you guys know about the systems I put in here, just so I can get familiar with it. The 3DO I've seen, I've never actually used. I just know that I'm pretty sure that's the 3DO because I've seen it in stores. They're just expensive, and they were back then anyways. So I'm just going to say that's what it was, and I've never used one. Not too familiar with the games on it either. Same thing with the Jaguar. I didn't really have one or know anyone that had one or anything like that. So now the Sega Saturn. I really like this console. I think it's really good. I don't know that I would say that it's S tier. I want to say it's B tier. I'm going to put it in B. I think it's really good. I think it has flaws, though, and they didn't live up to exactly what it was promised, it seems like, especially with a cartridge slot that was just never used and a bunch of other issues. You guys can go check that out in other videos, and maybe I'll go back and talk about some of these consoles in different videos. But for now, I just think that the games are expensive, yes, but I think it's a good system. I don't think it's anywhere near a C tier. I'm pretty sure it's a B tier. In my opinion, I really enjoyed Knights. That was like the one that I can remember from it. Then you got the PlayStation 1. This is an A tier. People are going to hate me for this, but it's an A tier for me. I didn't really play it too much, and I don't really enjoy going back to most of the games. I do enjoy a select few. I guess it's not a few. It's quite a bit. There's a lot of games on the system, but a lot of the niche category of games that are on the system are kind of low tier in my opinion. So I enjoy the Final Fantasies, the Spyro, the very known franchises that were on that system. But other than that, I'm not going to go picking out trying to find games that are on that system. But let me know down in the comments again any of these consoles game recommendations, but mostly I want to know about the no idea category because I at least have an idea of these ones. All right, so now we got, I think this is a Pong system, and I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever used one. And same thing with this. I believe that's the Apple Pippin. Let me know down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's the Pippin, and I've never had one. Never even seen one or heard anyone use it besides like LTT. There was a video a while ago on that, so I know that one. Now we got the 64. I'm going to have to put it A tier only because it's not as good as the S tier game systems. It had amazing games. The controller's not amazing. It's good. It's not amazing though. And it didn't really break any ground in my opinion. That's just me. I don't think that it like changed too much for me. Zelda was amazing on it, but that's all I remember as a kid playing it. And I go back to it, it's decent, but it's not the best. So I'm gonna put it A tier. It's still a great system. It's just not S tier, top tier type of system. The Dreamcast. Yep, I'm gonna say S tier. That is actually amazing in my opinion for what they could do at the time, and even now, going back to the system, a lot of the games really hold up in my opinion. So that's where I'm gonna put it. And I'm repeating these categories a lot, but PlayStation 2, that's an S tier. That's got to be an S tier for everybody. That's like the console that everybody has played, and pretty much anyone that's played video games has played a PS2 game before. Maybe not on the PS2, and it might be on a different system remade or something like that, but that's definitely up there. Arguably, that's probably the best system out of the entire list, but I'm not trying to do that type of list. I'm just going off of this list. I'm not trying to add tiers, like I said at the beginning. So let's go ahead and go on to the GameCube. GameCube is definitely A. It's close to an S, but I'm just not going to be able to do it. It's close to an S, but it's an A for me. It's better than the 64, but it's not as good as the rest of these. I believe the GameCube to be better than the 64. Some people like it less than the 64, but in turn, they both have great games to go back to. So great choices as A. They're definitely not as bad as like a Saturn. A Saturn is kind of difficult to recommend, especially in the game systems right now, but as well as like emulation and everything is just very difficult. So I'm just going to leave it there. And let's go on next to the Xbox. I have to put this in A. I want to put it in S. I want to put the Xbox in S so bad, but I can't. That's just nostalgia, I know. And I know that I'm just putting it in A tier because I want it to be there, but it's not an A tier. It's not an S tier. It is revolutionary in its own right, but I think it's still an A tier. They had things they could improve on, and at the time even, and be able to make it better. But the next one is where Xbox has gone to S tier. 360 was amazing. I had one of these systems which would break all the time because of overheating, and I had one break, and then we got another one. But the game system itself is just perfect, and the library is very large and very good selection of different games with Halo and everything. I remember the 360 more than the Xbox, the original one, because I had a PS2. And that's where we mostly played the games on. So I'm going to stick on this area of just like the Xbox is great, but the 360 was better. So there you go. Now the PS3, where do I put it? I'm going to have to stick it in A. I think it's an S tier console, but it has overheating issues with the actual S tier console, which is the first ones with the backwards compatibility. Would put it at S tier if it worked better and didn't have the issues of overheating and breaking like it does. I think that would be an S tier because the 360 broke quite a bit. But it didn't have the same draw to me as the 360, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. The PS3 I didn't have as a kid, but I loved the PS2 and PS1 era, and it's great that they went through with the PS3 being backwards compatible and everything. So that's definitely why it's an A tier. Otherwise, the if we're talking the slim version or the super slim, that's B tier. Easily B tier. The only reason it's on A is because of the backwards compatibility and all of that functionality in the first consoles. I also want to clarify that they all had backwards compatibility, but it didn't have full backwards compatibility like the first ones. Let's go ahead and go on to the Wii. Most people would say S. I'm going to put it A tier. I think it's an A tier because it didn't push gaming, but it didn't push gaming to gamers. It pushed gamers to everybody else that's not a gamer. So that's definitely a good thing. Got a lot of people in the gaming space. It's an A tier. If it didn't get blow up as much, it would be easily a B or even... Why is C in that order? I just realized that, guys. I'm sorry. Let's switch that around before I change anything else. Just realized that C was below D. But back to the Wii. I think that it would be S tier if they pushed it a little bit harder for games. I think that they really pushed heavy on that gimmick, and they didn't need to. But if they were focusing more on action, the people that already played games, that it would be a little bit closer to an S tier. Right now, it's more of an A, even a B, if it didn't blow up as much as it did. All right, the Wii U. I'm going to have to say it's a C console. The Wii U is only a C because of the fact that Nintendo didn't push it as much as they could have, or helped it along as much as they could have with third-party support, and the clunkiness of the controller, the main controller. I love the main controller. It's just weird that it's only one per console. They could have done that where they're like tablets of each console, and that would have made it a lot better in my opinion. And the fact that you can't use the console unless you have that gamepad is also just a huge down on it. There are some amazing games on the Wii U, and that's the only reason why it's not a D console. But I think that C is exactly where we're going to put it. The Atari. Looking back on the Atari, I would say it's a D tier. I'm going to put it in a C tier only because I didn't play it a lot. This is the only one I'm not putting in. No, I don't know that I don't have too much knowledge on. I don't feel like I want to use it as much as I would with any other console. So I'm going to put it in C with the Wii U. And I'm sorry for anyone that likes the Atari or was old enough to actually go through that time with the Atari. I didn't grow up with an Atari at all, so I don't know exactly that experience. So I'm going to leave it at that. Now we're on to PS4. And I'm going to have to say that the PS4... Do I put it in A or S? I think I'm going to put the PS4 in the S tier. Yes, I'm going to put the PS4 in the S tier. It's an amazing console. My only problem with it is no backwards compatibility at all, but they haven't done that with the PS5 either, so I'm going to just leave that out of it. And I'm going to put it on the S tier because they delivered amazing games through that generation, and the upgrades with the Pro and everything, amazing. So I think that deserves an S tier slot. Now the Xbox One. The Xbox One ended really well for me. I loved the Xbox One at the end of the generation, but the beginning of the generation was not good. So I'm going to put it in the B because the beginning of the TV, and pushing that and pushing in the Kinect, always having to be connected and all of that at the beginning really hurt them in my department of like being amazing console. It's just not at the beginning. The Xbox Series, or I did it because the friggin' names are confusing. Xbox One S and X, which I have back there. I don't know if you can see, there's the S right there, but kind of like right there, right above the monkey. And the X, which I had plugged it in the living room, the One X. to not be confusing. They were amazing, but the beginning ones were not. So let's go ahead and go on to the Switch. That's an S tier. It has issues, sure, but it is definitely an S tier. And if you say anything lower than an S, I don't know what you've experienced, but the Switch has so many good games, so great ability of just like switching between handheld and, TV mode or whatever you want to call it, and being able to play games with your friends or with family with a bunch of them connected without having internet is great. So there's just like so many options here with the Switch, as well as so many options of games, from first party games to third party, huge games like The Witcher 3, and all of that makes the Switch amazing. Everybody knows it. It's gonna be hard for Nintendo to follow up the Switch unless they just improve upon it and they don't try to change too much, but they kind of like having their gimmicks. So let's see where the Switch 2 or whatever they're gonna call the next one goes up with. So the Game Boy. Now it looks like this is the original Game Boy and probably the color as well. And I'm gonna say it's A tier. It's only A tier because I only like the Game Boy, or I only played the Game Boy as a kid because of Pokemon. And so that's for the most part only reason I've ever picked up a Game Boy up until recently when I got the Pocket, the analog Pocket, which I had a video on recently. And the Pocket is the only reason that I actually started picking up more games for the Game Boy or Game Boy Advance and all of that. So I'm going to also move the Game Boy Advance next to this. Both of those, or all three of them, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, I mostly played Pokemon on, some of the Zelda games, but I'm starting to go into those catalogs of games and be able to just find things I enjoy. But that was just my experience. Let me know down in the comments anywhere you would switch these up on, but I think that this is exactly where they should be for my personal experience with it. I have never owned a Game Gear, which I believe that's what this one is, right? Is the Game Gear. So I'm going to have to put it in D tier. No. I'm going to put it in C tier. It has good games, but it doesn't have save functionality. It took so many batteries to be able to do anything with those consoles. I don't own one. I want to preference that. I have played the games with the Pocket, as well as I've seen the system in person at a trade show in 2019. But other than that, I haven't really had too much experience with it. But I still think that it could have been better as the Game Boys were if they were trying to compete with the Game Boy. So I'm going to leave it there. The Virtual Boy. I've never had one, never played one. And that's true on most of these. Let me know in the comments what these are, as well as are they good? I know somewhat about these, like Nokia one. I think this one is a Sega Nomad, which plays like Master System games, I think. I can't remember. But I don't have any experience with them, so I'm just not gonna try to give my opinion on them at all until I can get more, and probably try to buy some of these. I don't have a lot of these. These are more of the expensive ones that at least I think for trying to buy retro games. I don't know what this one is, but I think I've seen it before. I think it's an Intellivision console. I don't know. And so is this one. Those are both Intellivision, I believe. And so I've never played any of them, so I'm just going to throw them in there. I don't know what they are. And kind of weird because they're like a number pad situation there, but let's go on to the next one, which is I think this is the regular DS, which I owned actually, and I enjoy. So I'm going to put that in the same tier as Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, because the original one which is the one my parents bought me when I was younger, would play the games from the Game Boy as well as DS games, which is great. And they ended up phasing that out pretty soon after the first ones came out, but I think it was mostly to shrink the console because the original one was large. So I think that's actually a good spot for it. PSP. I never owned one. My brother did. So I'm going to put it at B tier. I kind of like some of the games I've been playing as I grew up, but it doesn't have nostalgia for me. Like, I don't have nostalgia for it. So I'm just going to leave it on B. I think the game catalog will actually draw me in and probably raise that at some point. Maybe I'll come back to this after I've changed my opinion on some of these consoles and get a better list. But I think this is a pretty good list so far. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, as well as like the video. We got the 3DS, which I didn't own. I didn't own a 3DS. I own a new 3DS. So I assume they're lumping those together since I don't see it again. Again, I'm going to say A. The handheld market for Nintendo has always been great, in my opinion. I think that they did really well capitalizing on their handheld market, but I just don't think it goes to the level of the Switch. The Switch has really had an effect, which they call it the Switch effect, to get people to buy games because of the fact that you can play them at home with a controller, or you can pick it up and take it on the go. And that has really helped. I'm going to put the Vita at the same spot as the PSP because I don't think they're as good as the handhelds as well as the other, actual consoles. But I don't think that's a fault of the handheld. I think the handhelds were great designs and made great. I think the game selection and everything is very limiting. And I think the push from Sony on both of these were kind of not enough to push through Nintendo's share of everything. So I'm going to leave it at that. I know this. I don't remember the name of the system, but I know it's a D tier system. I have no clue, and I've never used one, but I'm putting it D tier because it's terrible and has done terrible things to the industry. And I know that everybody knows that it's like on. I don't remember. It's supposed to be an O, I believe. But I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna put the Game and Watch series. I like them. They are limited. That's why they're not S tier. But I think that the Game and Watch did a lot. I would probably say B because of the fact that it's only one game or like a very small section of games on it and a clock. So it's kind of outdated, but it was great for the time they came out in and to celebrate certain occasions with like the ones they did for Mario and Zelda, which I made videos on as well. So I'm going to leave them there. I'm going to put this in the, I don't know what that is. I don't know what this one is either. So I'm going to leave those down. Let me know down in the comments what each one of these are. You can count them off 1 to whatever number at the end. And let me know based off of that, or try to describe them if you want. However you want to try to, tell me what each one is. I don't even know the names of some of these, so I might Google them if I can. If you can give me the name, and then I can try to find pictures and all of that. So now we got down to the very old consoles, and I've only not used one of these, and I'm still going to give my opinion since I played games from that console on a different console. So we got the Famicom and the NES. These are S tier. We wouldn't have the gaming market we have now if it wasn't for Nintendo and the NES and Famicom. Less with the Famicom because Japan always loved Nintendo games that they were coming out with, and they already had the Famicom, I believe, before we got the NES. But the NES saved gaming without a shadow of a doubt because they were able to sell it as closer to an entertainment system rather than a gaming system, and trick people to playing games and finding out that there actually can be good if there's some type of regulation or control from the company making the console. So I think that Nintendo has to be given props for that. And that's definitely an S tier. They have a lot of systems in the S tier, and potentially they could have more, but I left them out because I think there could be more categories here to split these up. But I don't want to try to do that where we wind up with like SS and SSS tier. So let's go over to Master System. And I'm going to put that in B tier. I enjoy the games that I've played, but they're not overly great. And I could say that this is definitely the Sega before the NES because they did some weird stuff with some of those games. So for the most part, I think this list is actually pretty accurate. And even if the console that you love is a C tier like the Wii U, I still love the Wii U. I just don't think it's as good as the rest of them. And so I had to put it below them. So it doesn't matter where I put the consoles on this chart. Just know that it's just a guess, pretty much. It's not actually me saying that, don't buy a Wii U. Like, if you can find one, especially since they stopped producing them, you want to try to get them if you want to ever play games on that system. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think about my tier list. If you guys agree, if you guys don't agree, and where would you move things to? Link me to yours. I don't know if you can do that. I assume you can, or take a picture and link me to a picture. I don't know. I don't even know if you can link URLs in the comments section or not, but if you join our Discord, you'll be able to do that. So if you join Discord, you can drop a link in there and be able to let me know what you guys' tier lists are. And let's go ahead and switch over to a different camera angle and finish up the video. All right, so there was my tier list. Before we get out of here, like this video if you liked it, dislike if you don't, hit the subscribe button and then turn bell notification on to get notified when we upload new videos. You also get a notification if we go live, as well as go ahead and look down in the description for all of our links, Discord like I just mentioned a second ago, and a bunch of other links to merch and Twitter and a bunch of other stuff like that. You also link me anything on Twitter. If you guys have tier lists that you want to send, you can send them on Twitter. And also let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this video, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.